Thank you very much, Ms. Chavez, for being with us, and we're really glad to have you in Sima Yazadi's studio.
It's a pleasure.
So first of all, I want to talk about this year's International Women's Day conference. How do you assess it? How do you think the speeches were, and so on?
I think it was a very successful conference, one of the best that I have been to. I thought the representation from the many countries, the representation from people who had served in governments abroad, and from those who were there representing NGOs, but also young people, which I'm always very pleased to see, because it is important that there be a new generation of support for the freedom of the Iranian people.
Mm-hmm. In that same conference, you talked about the achievements of the Iranian resistance in terms of equal rights for women. Let me play a clip, an excerpt from your speech, and then I'll have my question.
We're here to celebrate Women's History Month and the role of women in national politics. I can think of no more fitting representation of the victory of equal rights for women than to take a regime which has been the most misogynistic, anti-woman regime in modern history and replace it by one led by a woman.
What does that mean for you? Could you elaborate on what you said on this achievement?
Well, I think it's very important that the resistance within Iran has been driven much by women. It has been women who have taken to the street. So the fact that the resistance to the Iranian regime is led by Madam Maryam Rajavi, to me, is very symbolic. It flies in the face of what the regime has done. For now almost 50 years, it has been a remarkably long time that the mullahs have been in control of Iran. But during that time, there has been resistance both within Iran and outside of Iran with the diaspora that is living outside. And I think Madam Rajavi's role in coalescing that opposition has been very important and is a symbol to what women can accomplish.
And you have been alongside this resistance and Mrs. Rajavi for many, many years. We've seen you in conferences, in Free Iran gathering, moderating some of those gatherings in Paris. I wanted you to explain to our viewers what made you decide to follow this path with the resistance, with the Iranians.
Well, my path with the resistance really started a very long time ago, even before some of the conferences in Paris. I was the U.S. expert to the United Nations Subcommission on Human Rights, and I was approached by an MEK member and asked to sponsor a resolution condemning repression in Iran. I looked at it, and because I was not under instructions from my government, I was independent, I was able to sponsor that along with a representative who had been appointed by the government of the United Kingdom. And it really was the beginning of my association. And then in 2012, I was invited to the Women's Conference and was able to attend that. And I have been coming basically yearly ever since.
Yes. We have heard a lot of accusations against the Iranian resistance movement, mostly by the Iranian regime, repeated by some others, such as it's a cult, that it receives money from this government, the next day from that government. Have you personally faced such accusations, and have you had personal experience, and how have you dealt with them?
Well, I have been approached by people critical of the resistance, people critical of Madam Rajavi and of the NCRI and the MEK in particular. And basically what I have said is, this is not my experience. I look at what the resistance does, what it says it stands for, what it advocates for in terms of a future free Iran. I think no one is suggesting that anyone will be put into leadership without the support of the Iranian people. There are free elections that will occur, and the question is whether or not this resistance movement has in fact been loyal to those principles, and I believe they have.
Mm-hmm. You have also participated in these years in various campaigns by the resistance to remove the MEK from the list, to support the residents in Ashraf 1 in Iraq and then in Camp Liberty. I would like you to tell us about the hardest moments in this journey and also the happiest one, the best days you had.
Well, it's very interesting because the MEK was originally put on the list of terrorist organizations by a previous administration. And it was very clear to me that the information that they had was totally outdated. So I was very eager to see it removed from the list. And of course, Europe led the way. There were many countries before the United States dropped the MEK listing. But eventually it was done. I was happy to be a part of some of the legal challenges. So I think when that designation was dropped was a very high point for me.
The second reason that I am here today is to ask my government to delist the MEK. We Americans know the face of terrorism. We have been victims of terrorism. We have been victims of Iranian terrorism, and that terrorism did not come from you. It came from the mullahs in Iran who have tortured and killed Americans.
One of the lowest points for me was learning that in Belgium, the Iranian government regime had sent bombers to one of the gatherings in Paris that I happened to be at.
Yes.
And that had it not been for intelligence and the apprehension of the 2 or 3 people who were headed to Paris to accomplish that bombing, it could have been an unbelievable tragedy.
Yes.
And so that to me was the low point.
Yes, I was also there in Villepinte reporting your speech and the other speeches over there. Yeah, and after those years, when you defended Ashraf, when you tried and succeeded to remove the MEK from the list, you went to Albania, meeting with the Ashrafis for the first time. How did you feel to be able to see them in person the first time?
It was wonderful because, of course, we had seen television videos from Camp Liberty, and it was very clear that the conditions people were living in were horrendous. This was almost like a concentration camp. And I thought that it was a betrayal of some of the promises that the United States had made when they persuaded the residents to move to Camp Liberty. So when many went to Albania, it was very rewarding to see some of these faces person to person, to be able to see their dedication, to hear their stories, to hear how it is they survived and what it is they hope to accomplish in the future. So it was a very uplifting for me.
And then you went also to Ashraf 3.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. When I went to Ashraf 3, one of the most surprising things was to see how quickly it emerged, the talent of the people there, the way in which they could create a small city out of nothing. That they would come in and they would build. I visited the mosque there, which was quite beautiful. And just to see what they were able to build with their own hands was very inspiring.
And now let us play a clip from one of your speeches in Tirana in 2017, and then I'll ask you the question.
I am very thrilled to be here in Albania. I frankly, a year ago, if you had told me that I was going to be here with the people of Camp Liberty, I would not have believed you. I would have thought this is a dream, this is a long time away, and yet here we are. And so I think that your movement has something to teach the world.
and that you have something to teach the world. And I want to ask you to continue your work. I want to tell you that those of us who have been with you will continue to be with you, and that this is a message that is not just about the future of your people. It is not just about the future of Iran. It is about the future of the world. Thank you very much.
What does this movement has to teach to the world, as you referred to?
Well, I think what it has to teach to the world is that perseverance pays off, that miracles are not accomplished overnight. You do not necessarily see change happen in a short period. It takes a long time to build. It takes a long time to educate because it is an important job that the MEK plays in trying to educate the world about Iran. And Iran has been a threat not just to its own people, but to the world. They have sponsored terrorist activities around the world. They were responsible for the killing of Americans. They were responsible for so many attacks on freedom, including bombing the children of Ukraine.
Yeah.
So I think that this is an issue that has to concern all of us. This is not just a problem of the Iranian people, both inside Iran and outside. It is a world problem, and we have to come together to support those who resist the regime.
Now I'll play a portion of your speech in the Free Iran Gathering 2012.
Thank you very much. First of all, let me just thank Madam Rajavi and all of those here who are representing the future of the Iranian people. Madam Rajavi is not just the head of the Iranian resistance. She is not just a future leader of Iran. She is a leader for women of all the world.
Years ago,
Yes.
And you have continued on this path. How would you describe your relationship with Mrs. Rajavi and what you just said in that clip?
Well, I think the first time I met her, I was starstruck. She was someone like an icon, someone that you would not think that you could approach. But I have become feeling that I am a friend and that she is my friend, and that our relations have grown very personal and very warm. And that I think that kind of embrace that she gives is something that helps inspire people to work for her dreams, because it is not just her personal dreams, it's the dreams for her people.
And knowing the Iranian resistance and also the fight of the Iranian people, of the Iranian women against the Iranian regime, having seen all those uprisings and the ups and downs we just mentioned, how do you envision the future of Iran?
Well, I hope the future is going to be a bright one, and I hope that it is going to happen sooner rather than later. It has been very encouraging to me, for example, to see that, you know, we had a regime in Syria that was one of the supporters of the Iranian regime, that it looked like they would be there forever, and then suddenly they were toppled, literally in a matter of days. So I think that should give inspiration to people that the future can be very bright. It depends on the people, and that no matter how much suffering they have endured, that it is possible to see a future democratic Iran in which the people are able to choose their own leaders. And I think that we're going to see that, I hope, in my lifetime.
We also hope that you'll be one day in Tehran. What does the alternative of the NCRI mean for you? How do you assess it? Because there are some people who say there is no real alternative. We should go back to the monarchy. And also, what does the Madame Rajavi's 10-point plan represent for you?
Well, first of all, in terms of those who would like to be the leaders of the resistance to the regime, you know, we've seen the son of the Shah, Mr. Pahlavi, who has been very much in the news. He tries to present himself as the real resistance. And in fact, he has no following. And I think there's a good reason for that. People who are alive today, or even their children who remember life under the Shah, this was not liberty, this was not freedom. This was, again, a tyranny. And it was the rule of one man who declared himself not only king, but a god. And now his son is also using that terminology. I think that's very, very destructive, and I caution people in the West, you know, who look to see him as some sort of a leader, because I don't think he is. In terms of Madame Rajavi, I think the 10-point plan makes it very clear that the resistance is in favor of free elections. They are in favor of a free press. They are in favor of freedom to worship as one chooses, the freedom to choose in life what one's path is going to be, that there will be absolute equality without regard to sex, without regard to race or religion. And I believe all of those things are what marks a true democracy, and that the institutions, an independent judiciary, one that is free in a free society, a press that is free, all of these things I think are necessary, and all of them are part of that 10-point plan.
Mm-hmm. As a friend of the Iranian people, at the end of our interview, if you were to talk to them directly, what would be your message to them? You could talk to them directly.
I would say directly that it is important to keep heart, it is important to remain strong, and it is important that you carry with you the message of hope and of freedom. And I believe that one day we will be having this interview, not in Paris, not in some other country, not in Albania, but rather in Iran, with a free and a freely elected government there.
Ms. Chavez, we thank you very much, and we wish you all the very best.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.